They talking shit about who will win and why. I'm alive, just took one to revive. Keep that vibe when we show up and collide.
Yo, what's up, world? This is your boy Shy, the non-ether Reaper, coming to you. This is Matrix Unlocked. I'm going to get up here and shoot a quick video, and it's going to be quick because I ain't got time today. But I just wanted to address something. And shout out to the people that checked out and supported MLK Declassified. That video really it meant something. I got it's probably about 20,000 views collectively. It's an 8-part series. Right now, we're in the middle. It's like 1 through 4 that's been released, but I'm about to drop the last 4, and this is going to be the meat and potatoes. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of that series. So I already got everything ready to go. I just been filling the vibes out, filling all the information out, seeing how people are reacting to the information. And I do thanks everybody who either like, shared, and subscribe to the channel. That's much love right there. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. I wanted to bring up a conversation that was had on the internet between me and someone, I guess, that seen my comment, and it was pretty much, to me, I think they wanted to, debunk, a certain some of the information that I'll be releasing regarding, our community and the connections and the ties of our lineage, going back pre-colonial, and what people know as American Indians or American Indigenous, being melanated people. So it was just a video I was watching, and the video caught my attention because the young lady was bringing some information, actual social media site. And I guess this channel I follow, Great Black Fathers, they posted it. And I made a comment about the information because I did appreciate the information that the young lady was saying, but I just added a few comments, or my own comments. I guess they didn't like the fact that I was identifying our lineage, what some people say is Native American culture. So I'm just gonna play the video, let y'all see it, and then I'm gonna run down the comments. The conversation from my point, my part, it was all about education and just bringing forth a productive conversation, not trying to get into or engage in a back and forth. But I felt, it seemed like maybe the person was a little agitated after I had my comment. So I'm gonna just play the message first, and then once I play the message, I'm gonna go ahead and break down what was said. So she was just bringing up some true points about how people from the freedman background or descendants of slaves or FBA, foundational Black American culture, some of the points that was made was pretty much about surnames or our last names and how we got them. And she was pretty much debunking the fact that not everyone received their last name from quote unquote slave masters. So here we go. Let's turn this up.
Cool. Why did I think that every Black person got their enslaver's last name? Descendants of slaves from America, obviously, is what I'm talking about. But why did I think that everybody had the names of their slave master? That's not the case. We all know that a lot of Black people got their last names from their enslavers. But what I didn't know was a lot of the common names, Carter, Smith, Taylor, those all came from Black people's ancestors' occupations. So in case you didn't know, a carter was a person who transported goods using a cart. A cooper is someone who made or repaired barrels. Smith is in relation to a blacksmith, someone who worked with metal. Tailor refers to a tailor, someone who sews and makes clothing. It's just spelled differently for whatever reason. And then you have names like Freeman, Strong, Young, Brown, Black. These represent exactly what it sounds like. Freeman obviously was the person who got their freedom during slavery, and that was just the last name given to Black people during that time so that it could be known that they were free. And that was their free identity. They no longer had a slave identity. And then you have those that took on names that represented their surroundings and geographic locations, such as rivers, banks, woods, hills. Those were names that indicated proximity to nature. Strong is just like it sounds, most likely identifying a person of that stature who portrayed inner strength as well as physical strength. Young, Brown, and Black were names that were given to people to describe their outward appearance. If they looked young, if they were brown, if they were Black, those were the names that stuck and were passed down in the family line. And the fourth way was through false documentation, such as the Freedmen Bureau census and things like that, which forced Black people to change their last names because they were either spelled wrong, misdocumented, anglicized, etc. And others, after emancipation, rejected their last names and chose their own last names. However, they chose names such as Washington, Lincoln, after predominant figures of their time, which was ironic because, obviously some of them owned slaves, but they still felt some type of prestige to the name and wanted to take after them, rejecting their enslavers. And I'm kind of low key jealous of y'all because my ancestors just kept their enslavers' last name. It's very Irish. When I was a kid, people would ask me, "Are you related to Michael Jackson?" And I would say, "Yeah, that's my cousin." And he low key might be. Who knows? I don't know. It's a cool name, but it's just not. We're not connected to our roots. However, it is cool.
Okay, so you guys heard the young lady sharing some valid information. The comment I was referring to that I made, it was basically about her saying Washington and Lincoln. A lot of the stories that we get were that if your last name comes from Washington or Lincoln, that doesn't necessarily mean that you were your ancestors were actually owned by someone with that last name. It was just chosen because at the time, George Washington was like a historic figure, and Lincoln as well. And yeah, with that being said, some people may have chose that route, but I did want to highlight that Washington also relates to the Washita tribe. So I'm gonna go over here and share and shout out to Great Black Fathers. It's a great channel. If you are anyone that's black, in the parenting, not just exclusive to fathers, but mothers too, should follow this channel. They do show a lot of good clips. All right. So if you look to your right, you'll see where I said that Washington relates to the Washita tribe. So a lot of American indigenous or people who refer to themselves as American Indians that are melanated, that would fit the normal description of a black person or whatnot, they already know this information as far as the Washita tribe, and also the Moors or Mers, however you prefer to say that name. Now, Jackson has indigenous origins as well, and the young lady was saying that she was a Jackson, and she felt bad because the origins of Jackson, I guess, as historical knowledge, or I would say Western knowledge, comes from the land of Ireland. But I wanted, just to leave a comment that Jackson also has indigenous origins as well. I have Jacksons in my family, so I definitely wanted to highlight that. So I did go down and I did comment and say Irish people were not considered white back then. So it's less likely the last name came from an Irish slave master. Now, if you want to break down what I meant by that, is if you know true American history, the first Irish people to arrive, most of them was either indentured servants, and they actually got treated very harshly as well. Not to say that they were treated like, melanated people or indigenous people on the land, former slaves, but they did get some pushback. They were not really considered white until like maybe I would say the early 1900s, Italians as well. So just to dive back in on the comment, it's more likely that someone named Washington is more likely getting their last name, or Jackson is their last name derives. And I'm going to go into some details. I'm going to pull up a website to state the source, so you guys know I'm not just spitting something that I'm not knowledge or I haven't researched. All right. And also another way somebody may have gotten their last name. I did note their father may have been named Jack, and they were the son of Jack. So that's pretty much what I was sharing. My thing is, I'm not going back and forth with you about your heritage or what you believe to be your lineage or whatnot. My thing is, I'm more so, you know I want to have these discussions with people who are ready to step into the true knowledge, the true origins of our ancestry and the true origins of our history. I do know a lot of people still stand on the books that were, I guess, receive their credentials from westernized society, or what we call modern day academia. So I understand, if that's your route, if that's the route you want to go and you want to stick to it, I don't knock that at all. But once you step into my space, my world, I'm going to actually educate you and let you know, the true origins of some of the things that we talk about when we going into details regarding what we call black people or melanated people in the Americas. So I'm gonna add this to the stage. They say the family name Washington among us is not related to the Washita tribe. Like she said, the surname Washington originated in England. Now I'm gonna give the breakdown why Washita was changed to Washington. I'm going to give that as well. So it says it originated in England and became widespread in the U.S. due to its association with George Washington. After emancipation, many formerly enslaved people adopted the name Washington as a symbol of freedom and dignity. Now, George Washington owned slaves, but here you have it that this person is saying that they adopted the name as a symbol of freedom. The man who had slaves. Now, the Washita Nation, on the other hand, is an African American group claiming, and I guess he's using the context of African American as a foundational Black American or a American Indian or American Indigenous. Many people do that. Jesse Jackson did coin the phrase in the 80s, and people ran with it. But the problem I have with the African American narrative is hyphenating your name makes you someone of immigrant background. So, of course, this is someone coming from a westernized standpoint, and they're saying that an African American group claiming ties to Native American heritage, specifically appropriating the name. You see the name, right? Which is the proper way to write it. I repeat, there is no historical or linguistic connection between the surname Washington and the Washita. Now, I'm going to connect this later. I'm just reading what they're saying. Let's normalize not making fake knowledge for knowledge, because someone on YouTube claims to be a researcher or whatever. Anyone interested by real books and researches about these subjects, I can provide these resources. Peace. Okay, so they ended with the peace. So at this point, I guess they're not getting standoffish or anything like that, where I felt like the conversation was going left. I respected the feedback, and I respect the difference of opinion. So, and I do keep in mind that there's a lot of people that stand westernized history as their source to make their claim. I'm not mad at that at all. I just, when you know, I didn't take it as an insult, because I'm just going to use it as a teaching moment on my platform, on my YouTube, as they quoted. So I'm going to provide you guys with the information first, and then I'll go to my response to the individual's comment. Okay, so let's pull this up. And so as you guys can see, now it does mention Cherokee tribes. So a lot of Cherokee lineage is very prevalent in the Southeast because of how far it stretched. Cherokee community. So I'm going to read here where it says common Cherokee surnames. Some common surnames that are associated with Cherokee lineage include Adair, Graham, Jackson, Reed, Smith, and Walker. Each of these surnames carries a story of its origin and significance. So basically what they're saying is these surnames pretty much, or last names pretty much, carry a history to it. So we're saying, okay, well, how did these names become English names? So the thing is, when the Europeans colonized in the Americas, it was pretty much hard to pronounce a lot of the names. Now, it wasn't originally westernized, but a lot of the natives adopted these last names because they were pretty much Americanizing themselves, because they were, acclimating to the people who were actually conquering the land. So yes, you have a lot of people who have these same surnames, Washington included, Williams is also included. It's a lot more that I'm not mentioning or not mentioned in this article, but I just want to, I want to just elaborate on how some of these last names came about, and they are indigenous to our ancestry through the origins of our lineage being Native American or American Indian. Pretty much the first people to inhabited the Americas, North and South. So the source is a Native American website. And up here, I don't know if you guys can see the source name. familyeducation.com, Native American last name, and another one was memorycherish.com, Cherokee surnames. So I'm gonna scroll down, and this is going to explain what I mean by how the settlers pretty much Europeanize a lot of the natives or the native people on the land. Now, you can say this either goes back to pre-colonial times, because pretty much most Native Americans did not use surnames or last names. They only used the first name, and then the last name more than likely was something to do with their tribe or whatever their totem animal was, like Black Hawk or Moon Wolf, names that represented the totem animal of that tribe. And this article pretty much goes over how the names, or pretty much what I was saying about how when the settlers came in, they Europeanized a lot of the native people on the land. So if you go down to this paragraph, it looks like the third paragraph. When English and other European individuals began to conquer and settle the Americas, some individuals adopted Western surnames, while others used last names indicative of their tribe. Now, if you know any people that come over now, as far as in immigration, a lot of those people kind of shed away some portion of their name, or either they will Americanize their name. So you may have some friends who may came over later in this in modern time. A lot of times those names will get Americanized, and usually it's a name that derives or has some kind of parallel in language or reference to their own or their prior last name from the country that they came from. So basically, that article pretty much shed some light. And if you seen your last name on there, I would just suggest you do your own research. Try to stay away from what I would say is uh, history that's been whitewashed. Try to find some old documents pertaining to American history, that's pretty much legitimate. And like I said, with the cover up in our true history, you're going to have to use discernment. And discernment is key in this when you're researching and you're finding origins and things of that nature. So I'm going to share with you my response. All right. So my response was basically, and I blocked out the name because I ain't trying to put nobody on blast. I just took, like I said, this is an educational moment right here. So I did respond. I said, I highly doubt slaves knew of George Washington half a century after he had been in office without being allowed to read or write. So that was one of the things that debunks this story about a lot of our ancestors coming out of slavery and adopting the name of George Washington. Do you think on these plantations that 40 or 50 years after George Washington was in office, the slaves knew of George Washington or knew his legacy or knew anything about George Washington? So they just so happened to say, oh, yeah, George Washington. Remember, these people were not allowed to read or write, but we supposed to believe that they chose Washington to identify with George Washington. Now, whether you want to go with that or not, that's on you. Like I said, you have to use discernment. So I also went on to say George Washington was a horrible slave master. Why would anyone formerly enslaved honor him? However, I do understand most of our people have been indoctrinated over time and have widely accepted Western academia as a reliable source of information. I also understand not everyone is well studied on the subject of our true origins in America. If anyone reads this and would like to be provided with credible sources and information, can in fact message me and I will share. So, and I left a thank you, because this person used the time and opportunity to pretty much say they will send their sources. I wanted to actually say, hey, I'll send you my sources, because I go off of some credible sources, and it's not to like battle or go back and forth with anybody, but it's just to shed light on our true history. And a lot of people don't know our true history. So I guess after I made the comment, we'll read the next response, and this is going to be their last response, and then I'm going to leave my follow-up. So it's going to be real quick. All right. So this is the part where I can tell that whoever was going back and forth, they were kind of a little rubbed, because then they wanted to, personalize things and take shots. So here he goes. Sir, you couldn't even write in the proper way. Now he's talking about the Washita. Now remember, I'm comparing Washita to Washington. So it's no need for me to bring up the origins of Washita. It's no need at all. But what they're trying to do is use the original name of a tribe or where the origins of Washita tribe come from and say, I couldn't even write this. Now, this is it's funny to me because I'm like, why would I even associate Washington with the tribe name that they're using if I'm making a comparison of how Washita became Washington if you are a part of the Washita tribe? So according to logic, about knowing about Washington, well-known phenomenon across humanity, history such as oral language and narration were not in existence. Sir, be serious. Please, recently free enslaved individuals learned about George Washington's name and legacy through oral traditions, public discourse, and widespread cultural reverence for him in the United States. So he's saying that it was passed down, people that was in fields working under slavery day to day from lip to ear, because he's saying he's referencing, you know, oral traditions, or he's referencing, this is how our people revered George Washington. So he's adding a lot of baking soda to it, but I'm going to continue on and read. The fact that he was the owner of enslaved people, just like nowadays, we do ignore a lot of elements of contemporary history. Newly free enslaved were not aware of every details concerning Washington, especially how his name was often used for towns, streets, and institutions, making it recognizable symbol of freedom and leadership, even for those who were illiterate or lacked formal education. Plus, we know how YT people love to celebrate their heroes hiding their evil side. Anyway, to each his own. If you want to keep coddling yourself with freestyle YouTube fake historian, hello, this dude got me messed up, yo. I love it. I love it. He said, anyway, to each his own. If you want to keep coddling yourself with freestyle YouTube fake historian who keep on with their fairy tales but are unable to write the name of a tribe correctly, knock yourself out. Have a good day. So, I appreciate the jab, and it is what it is. I'm up here. I just want to share information. It's no pun intended. I take no harm in it. I laugh at stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Whether I'm putting the information out here on YouTube, I do think YouTube is a great platform to use, by the way, as far as getting out information. Now it does have its downsides. I'm not going to praise it, like, what I'm saying, it's not the best. They do censor a lot of stuff. That's why you have to change the names on certain things. Like you'll hear people say unalived or YT people, things of that nature. Just common things that you have to make sure you do so your platform doesn't get flagged or anything like that. But this is going to be the last response. Once I seen he was getting bothered, I took that as a tap out. I took that as, this guy really don't have, the true information that he says he's having, because he's pretty much, like I always say, it's a tap out when you start to, take personal jabs and make more things personal, or make some things personal. So this is my last response, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna break things down and get out of here. All right. So I did say, over the course of history, names were changed. Of course, anyone with common sense knows, and my autocorrect put knitted. Anyone with common sense knows that. Why would someone who was given information in reference to Washington, the surname, community, a pre-reference name? So basically, I'm saying, why would I even entertain and give them the origin of a Washita name and then tie it up with Washington? Because the origins clearly show, if his origins are correct of Washita, if his origins are correct, it would be pointless for me to make the comparison to what the tribe's origin name was. It's sort of like if you think about the Utah Jazz. If I'm talking to somebody now, I'm not going to be like saying, well, you didn't use New Orleans Jazz as the reference because that's where the Jazz started. And I'm talking in a modern day sense where I'm pretty much generalizing to the public. Or the Lakers. Many people who follow basketball know that the Lakers came from Minneapolis, before they moved to Los Angeles. But I'm not going to reference the Minneapolis Lakers because I know it's more commonly known and widespread that the Los Angeles Lakers, are the team that we're referencing in today's modern time. So I just wanted to give that analogy or that comparison, or either New Orleans Pelicans, who were originally the Charlotte Hornets. I'm not going to be speaking to anybody about the New Orleans Pelicans and refer to them as the Charlotte Hornets, because it's going to get more confusing, because the Charlotte Hornets reestablished the franchise in Charlotte. So, it's just it's these hit and misses that I feel like this person was doing. So it says it makes no sense, just like your oppressor narrative that the enslaved black people just left off the plantation and picked the last name of a president who was in office in the late 1700s. Yeah, basically. So what I was saying was, why would I even compare Washington and not use the Washita tribe, which they're referenced as in today's? So I said it makes no sense. Just like your oppressive narratives that enslaved black people just left off the plantation and picked the last name of a president who was in office in the late 1700s, right? Like, we supposed to believe in 1865 and 1866 through 67. They was just yeah, I want George Washington. I want Washington to be my last name. I want Washington because I remember George Washington. Like, how would they associate in today's time, in that era, you know, people who were not allowed to read and write and didn't know anything about politics during slavery? So that's going to say weird, but hey, if you're that easy to manipulate, then I definitely see no point in having a discussion. Move along past my comment because it clearly goes over your head, respectfully. And that's what I feel though. I feel like the comment that I made, if he felt like it was something there, he could have went past it. He chose to, or he or she chose to, I guess bring their perspective. And then hey, I'm gonna definitely stand on business when I come to this research because that's what I do. I don't just come up here and talk. I read first. I have plenty of books in the archives that I have read, that I have come to find out so many different things. Like people reference a lot of times the Columbus diaries when Christopher Columbus was describing the native people of the land as being copper colored or Ethiopian looking individuals. Now, that doesn't sound like Mongoloid natives to me, and not to knock those tribes. I'm not trying to knock you, but you can't deny my people's history. And just because we're taking and we're reclaiming our land, and you guys are like, well, you might feel like it's a slight to you. No, I definitely acknowledge that it was Mongoloid natives here, and it was Negroid natives as well. And another thing, now you have a lot of people from our diaspora, a lot of dark or melanated people that only wants to go with the narrative that became popular in Western society as all quote unquote black people originated from slave ships. Now these same people, these same quote unquote black people, will reference and give homage to the continent of Africa with some of the smartest people of all time, people that created math, created science, created time, revolutionized time. They'll give all the credit to the continent and those people on the continent as being most in part originators of modern society. Even though they had ships, they feel like these people never mapped out the world. They never left Africa. They just stayed in Africa. Like, that's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Why would people who was doing this thousands of years prior to what we know as a modern civilization just stay confined to that continent? So if we want to stand on science and we want to just say, hey, everybody came out of Africa, if that's the narrative and that's what we're going to go on, I'm going to use that. Okay, so scientifically, if we all came out of Africa and we credit Africa with creating math, science, geometry, algebra, astrology, all of these things, it sounds like some highly intelligent people. Why wouldn't they navigate and explore? They had ships. They had ships thousands of years ago, so we just think that no one left Africa until the Africans decided to migrate to Europe and became lighter or fair skinned to what we reference to as white today. And then that's when the new world was discovered, and we just supposed to believe this slave narrative when we already know that the entire planet, when you go back 10, 20,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, the entire planet was dark melanated people. As far as history tells us, if you want to go off the science, the European race or Caucasoid race showed up about 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. So the entire planet at one point was dark melanated people. So we just want to believe that everybody stayed in Africa. Even when, science tells us that all the continents was connected at one point. And what they tell us in school was what they called it Pangea. Then when you go and you talk to some people with the Islamic background, it was called Asia. The entire continent that was once all together was called Asia. So what the thing is, names change, of course. You know, I'm not going to debate with somebody whether it was Pangea or whether it was Asia or whether the whole entire continent was Ethiopia. You know, that's besides the point. It was all together. So you mean to tell me that these people didn't migrate out? They've been on this planet hundreds of thousands of years. Some people date back, some of the oldest bones, you know, date back further, you know. And the funny thing about this is the excavations that go on in the Americas they get hidden. So that's why a lot of times when you're talking about them doing this research on older skeletons, it's always Africa. It's going to be always Africa because that's the narrative. That's the narrative to get the people to buy into the fact that every dark person that's on the planet today, it was some kind of slave. It's some kind of slave narrative to how they got there. Now, mind you, dark-skinned melanated people are the majority of the people on the planet. Whether you know this or not, or if you do know this, they are the majority of the people on the planet. But somehow we only ended up in these different areas of the world, these different regions of the world, because of some kind of slave trade. So I'm not really buying into that narrative. I'm not going with that narrative, and I'm not going to push it. But, you know, to each his own. If that's something that you want to continue to base your origin story or your lineage story around, then you can. But if I've came to the knowledge and research, and I know pretty much my true origin, then stay in your lane. You don't have to come over here. You don't have to come over here at all. But I'm gonna definitely put the spotlight on you. If you feel like you got some information, send it. You know, if you feel like you want to join the platform and, you know, share the information that you have with the world, share it, because I'm going to stand on my business and I'm going to share my information too. You know, this is Matrix Unlocked. It's all about thinking outside the box that you've been put in, that you've been placed in. I'm trying to get your mind awakened and elevated. Well, not your mind, but the people mind, the babies. I'm also, you know, aiming my message towards the babies, because I do understand that older generations, they say it's hard to teach old dog new tricks. So, you know, I understand that some people can't go. Some people never going to accept the knowledge. But, you know, when you have somebody that is younger and they're more receptive because things just didn't add up and it didn't make sense, and you have that genetic memory kick in and you start to, you know, tap into the ancestors, you know, you'll definitely see, you know, the true knowledge. It's a story behind it all. But you got to wonder, is you following his story or you following my story, which is history's mystery, you know? So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I thought it was real. I thought this was a real educative video. You know, I just wanted to show, because I'm going to take the good with the bad, you know what I'm saying? And I'm always going to do that. I'm never going to shed light on people who got something, you know, to say. If you got something to say, hey, let it be known. But just know the Reaper coming, and I'm going to show you the information. I'm going to bring you the knowledge. I already brought the videos. We were already here. I'm already sitting on that. I'm already showing information and research in those videos where the oldest bones in North America and South America were darker melanated people. I'm already going over the facts of Mansa Musa's brother, Abu Bakari II, was a traveler that crossed the Atlantic, then went to South America. I already done discussed that, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, and thank you guys for liking and sharing the videos and subscribing to the channel. And yeah, right now, yeah, this is a little channel, but you know what? You guys continue to support it with the like, shares, and the subscribes. It won't be a little channel for long. You know, we're gonna take this thing over. This is Matrix Unlocked. Peace.
Heard they talking shit about who will win and why. I'm alive, just took one to revive. Keep that vibe when we show up and collide.